Good morning, Epic Niners. Right, buddies, today, you lucky ducks, we're having a great big practice day on change of subject. So by and large, you guys did really, really good on the first change of subject topic. When I looked through your work, I actually looked at it pretty carefully and made sure that you were getting the steps and everything in place for change of subject. And it was really, really good, largely. There was a few people who didn't show. Oh, drow. That's interesting. There was a few people who didn't show full steps on it. So there's a few people that just kind of tried to go straight to the answer. That's not quite okay. And the reason why I think that people did that is I think that a few people were a bit muddled and they just tried to get an answer down that they thought was right, but they weren't quite sure how to do it. So because of that, I think we could use another lesson where I don't actually teach you any new skills, but we develop our skills of changing the subject by practicing about 6 more together and then giving you a chance to do an absolutely beautiful change of subject worksheet for me. Cool beans, buddies? Cool. So it's going to be a bit of it's going to be a really good lesson, but it's going to be a bit of a cool lesson in that you're going to get to go at your own pace a little bit. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk it through. Yeah, and this is going to be the strategy. So for every question, there's 6 of them. I'm going to start off with A. They get harder as you go along, okay? And that's the hardest down there. They're going to get harder as you go along. Before each question, I'm going to give you a chance to push pause so you can get ahead of me, but then you need to unpause and check that your steps are exactly matching mine. So if you've not shown full steps, it doesn't count as being right, okay? So while I know that some of you will be able to say that the answer to the first one is y take 5 all over 3, it's not really enough yet to do that. Like, that's more something that I'd allow an A-level student to do, but not you guys yet. You're still learning, so I gotta see your guys' steps. So let's do it, buddies. So here's the strategy then. If you are starting right now with me, so if you are, you're all together with me right now, if you want to try this one and this one, you should push pause now and do it. But before you do that, I'll draw both answers in a square. So you can fast forward in the video until you can see these 2 answers in a square underneath them. And you can skip to that if you'd like just to check and not watch the video. Cool? But for everybody else, I'm going to talk our way through it. So, you guys who aren't sure, get your listening ears on, because here we go. Cool, buddies. Right, first, so people who are going to pause, do it. Okay, and people who've stuck with me, let's check it out. Well, we want to make X the subject in this one, okay? Because there's little X in the red bracket there. Now, if you want to make X the subject, here's how it goes one more time. You find out where X is, which is here, next to the 3, and what you do is you say to yourself, well, there's X, it's with its mate the 3, and I'm going to kind of protect them. You don't have to actually draw a square around it, buddies, that's completely optional, but it helps me to explain it. So you got your X, but it's with its mate the 3, so we're going to block them off together. So what doesn't belong on this side then? If I just want X to be by itself, what's the thing that doesn't belong on the right-hand side? Well, it's the +5, you're right. So how do you get rid of a +5? Well, you take 5 off both sides. So what are you left with on the left now, buddies? Well, you're going to have y take 5. And that doesn't actually simplify because y and 5 are not like terms. So that's all you've got on this side. And on this side, it's 3x. Cool. Now what, buddies? Now what do we do? I want to get X, it's there. It's with its mate the 3, but it's time for the 3 to go home. They're attached to each other by multiplication because it's like 3 lots of X. So how do you get rid of a multiplication? Well, a division, of course. Absolutely right. Cool? Make your fun sound as you cancel them out. And I'm just going to write the X part on the left, but you don't have to if you don't want to. Switching the sides around, I'm going to have X equals, and what am I left with? Well, it's y take 5 all over 3 like a boss. That is your one answer that you guys should have, okay? So I'd really like to see your answer like that. Okay, my lovely bee people, here we go. Same deal here. This is a little bit harder because it's 4 to x take away 2 all over 5. Now there's something up with this one, buddies. And the thing that's up is that there's a fraction on this right-hand side. So that's going to stop me from doing +2 like you'd like to do. It's going to stop me because the fraction is ruining things a bit. So the first question that we've got to ask is how do I get rid of this fraction? Because there's our 4x. That's the thing I want to be by itself to begin with. But it's like all over this fraction. I don't want the fraction. So what's the opposite of this fraction? What's the opposite of divided by 5? Well, if you said times 5, you're absolutely right. So you put a little times 5 on both sides like that. Well, y times 5 then, buddies. It's just 5y. On this side, you get to do your fun sound effect as they get cancelled out. So there is no fraction anymore. This side's only got 4x minus 2. The 4x we want is right there, so that's cool. We can protect it. I'll protect it one more time. Maybe I'll stop protecting it in the questions after this. Put a little square around it to show that you're protecting it. So who doesn't belong on this side? Well, it's the minus 2. How do you get rid of minus 2? Well, plus 2. Plus 2, plus 2. 5y plus 2 equals 4x. Final step, Epic Niners, is the 4 is the x's friend. It's attached by multiplication, but it's time to get rid of it. How do you get rid of times 4? Well, divide 4 on both sides. You're left with, and I'm just going to switch it so the x is on the left, but no big deal if you don't want to, x equals 5y plus 2 all over 4. So I hope that you feel okay at these intro ones. Like this would be the hardest of year 8. What we're going to do from now on is the starting of year 9, or the hardest of year 9 actually as well. Cool. For C and D, buddies. In this one, we want B to be the subject. Now, it's a bit funnier, so maybe pause and have a think. What do you think you should do first? Well, if you said there's a couple of issues with it, that there's like other things touching the B, you're right, but there's something that stands out straight away that we don't want to be in it, and that's the minus 1. Because look, there's the B that we want, but it's being touched by the 3 and by the 5. So we're going to block him off. We don't want that. We want them to be safe, and we want to get rid of the minus 1. So plus 1 plus 1. What are we going to get on this side, buddies? Well, 10a plus 1. And what are we going to get on this side? 3b over 5. Okay, now this is where it gets way harder, buddies. What are we going to do now to get the b on its own? Well, it's 3 times b divided by 5. This is like that temperature question that people really struggled with on the last one, so it's kind of tricky. I'm just going to tell you, I want rid of the divided by 5 because the fractions always make stuff hard. So what's the opposite of divide by 5? Well, if you said times by 5, you're right. But we've got to times the whole of both sides by 5. So actually, when you do a little times by 5 here, you're going to times every single thing by 5. So that's going to get times by 5. And so is that going to get times by 5. So each thing got times by 5. Actually, I've got an even better way. Just ignore that. I've got a better way of showing you. You're going to times both sides by 5. So it's going to be like this. We're going to times this by 5 as well. But you can think of it as being doing that, right? Because you're timesing the whole of both sides by 5. That's the same as timesing by 5, isn't it? Yeah. So here we go. 50a plus 5, because you times out the bracket, and you go, and you're just left with 3b. Now, if it was me doing it, I wouldn't have drawn the purple bracket in once you get good at it. I would have just times the 10a by 5 and got 50a, and I'd have times the 1 by 5 and got 5. That's how I would have done it. Cool. And the final step then, buddies, to get b on its own. B has been times by 3. What's the opposite of times 3? We'll divide by 3. So we'll divide both sides by 3. Just like that. Final answer, b equals 50a plus 5 all over top of 3. And that's what we've got for our answer there. Okay, buddies. Now, we are hard level now, okay? So I'm not giving you an easy lesson. This is a hard lesson. But have a look. Can you think of what to do here? This is similar. It's hard, but it's similar. We want to make A the subject. And, well, first of all, A is on both sides, so that's tricky. But first of all, the fraction is awful. Let's get rid of it. So what are you going to do? How do we get rid of this fraction? What are we going to do to both sides? Well, that's it. We're going to times both sides by 5. So times 5, and it's the whole of this side that's going to get times by 5. So I could either put the 5 like that, like I did in the last question, or I'm going to even give you an alternate. Or if you prefer, if it helps you understand better, you can put a little times 5 on both if you want, because that's actually what you're doing. We're timesing the whole of this side by 5 and the whole of this side by 5. So 5a times 5 is going to be 25a. Minus 6 times 5 is minus 30. This side here, you're left with 2a plus 3b because the fraction went away. Cool, what's next, buddies? If we want a to be the subject, what do you want to do next? Well, you want to get the a's over to one side. So which side do you want to put the a's on? How about left? How does that sound? If we get the a's to the left, we're definitely going to be onto a winner there. So let's do it. Minus 2a and minus 2a. Cool? We're subtracting the 2a's from both sides. It's not like the times 5 where you do it to everything. When you're subtracting, you just move stuff together with like terms. So what am I going to get here to start with? Well, 25a take away 2a is 23a. The minus 30, nothing happened there. Copy that. 2a take away 2a is just nothing, so gone. And this one here is 3b. Cool. Well, now it's like a solving question. What are you going to do next? Well, that's it. Plus 330. Plus 30, because we want the a's to be by themselves, right? We're trying to get this part by itself so we can get what a is. Cool. So what are we left with? Well, 23a equals 3b plus 30. Then what? To get a by itself, that's our goal. To get a by itself. It's been times by 23. So what do we do to the whole of both sides? That's it. You divide the whole of both sides by 23. Because when you do buddies, you're left with a equals 3b plus 30 over 23 as your final answer. So we are absolutely flying. Okay. These ones here, E and F, are actually more year 10-y than they are year 9-y. And we'll spend a lot of time on these in year 10, my buddies. But no harm in having a go at it now, though, I don't think. So let's have a little go at it now. Okay. These guys are awful because, again, there's that awkward fraction hoo-ha going on. There's a 3 and a 2, and the fractions are making it well awkward. We want h to be the subject, but this h is in a fraction. This h is not in a fraction. The h's are all over the shop. It's just a bit awkward. So here's what I'd suggest. I want to times every single thing on both sides by something. So this is unusual, so we're not moving anything first. I am so wound up by the fractions that I want rid of them. So we're going to do a bit of a trick. We're going to times 1, 2, 3, all 4 things by the same number. What number could you times by that will get rid of both a 3 and a 2? What can you times everything by that will cancel out with a 3 and a 2? Like, for instance, you could use 3. You could times them all by 3, like all 4 of them by 3, because that would go, and that's a result. But the 2 and the 3 wouldn't cancel, so 3 is not a good number. So we're not going to do 3, actually. You could times them by 2, because then the 2's would cancel, but then this 3 and 2 wouldn't cancel. Oh, that's not a good number either. What number would work? What's a number that 2 and 3 both go into? Did you just say 6? Because that is the right answer. Let's times them all by 6, my buddies. Because if you times them by 6, or 12, or 18, or any multiple of 6, they're going to cancel out. Because check this out. The 3 cancels with the 6 2 times. Because 3 goes into 6 2 times. 2 cancels with 6 3 times. Because 2 goes into 6 3 times. And now what we've got is just a question to work out. G times 6, well, that's 6G. H times 2, that's 2H, plus 1 times 3, so it's plus 3, plus 6 times H, which is 6H. Cool, now what? That's it. Whack the right-hand side together. Let's try to get them collected. Collect the like terms. 6g equals 2h and 6h make 8h. Copy the plus 3, which is good. Now what? That's it. We want to get h as the subject, so the minus 3 needs to go. So let's get rid of the plus 3 needs to go. So take 3, and what are we going to be left with? Well, 6g take 3 equals 8h. Then what? To get h on its own. That's it. You got it. Divide both sides by 8. Because it was times, and now it's divide. So let's check it. You're going to get h equals 6g, take away 3, all over 8, as your final answer, my amazing Niners. Okay, here we go. F is the hardest one by a mile. But if you've stuck with me this far, I want you to do your very best to do it without me. So I'm going to tell you what the first step is. The first step is to stop this right-hand side from being divided by 3. So what are we going to do to stop something being divided by 3? That's it. We're going to times the whole of both sides by 3. You ready? I want you to pause, get all the way to the end. 3, 2, 1, go! Okay, and you're back. Let's see how you did. So times 3, and you're timesing the whole of both sides by 3. So we're going to times that by 3, and we're going to times that by 3. So anything that's a term on its own, anything that's separated by plus or minus needs to be times by 3. So g times 3 makes 3g. Minus 2 times 3 makes minus 6. What happens on the other side, though? Well, you get to make the sound. Leaving you, that means the fraction's gone, so you're just left with 4, open bracket, 2h take 1. Okay, what's next? Well, get rid of the bracket, is that what you're thinking? Because that's exactly right. 3g take 6 equals, 4 times 2 is 8h take 4. Cool. What do we do next? Well, if you want to get h by itself, get rid of the minus 4. Plus 4 plus 4. You're then going to be left with 3g take away 2 equals 8h. And you're one step away. What's the final step? That is it, buddies. You divide both sides by 8. And you're left with h equals 3g take away 2 all over 8. Like a boss. So that's hard, buddies, but that is the standard that I'm hoping that we can kind of get to. E and F are more year 10-y, but you could get them in year 9 also. So it's important that you're giving them a go. I hope that the rest of these are okay, especially A and B should have been alright. C and D, probably a bit tricky, but you need to know how to do them, so I hope that you had understood how to times the whole of both sides by 5 and so on like that, and the whole of both sides by 5 actually in that one as well. I hope you got that. E and F tricky ones. Okay, here's what I'm going to get you to do. This sheet isn't quite as hard as the ones I've just given to you right now, did with you. So this is not quite as hard as the others, but it's critically important that you're doing these beautifully, all 10 of them, okay? So you've got 40 minutes. That's a huge amount of time to try to get them all done. So do your very best. Some of them are only 1 step, but most of them are 2 steps, and some of them are 3 steps. I want you to change the subject to T in every single question, okay? Now, critically, you must show your full workings in your book. So if you've just written the answer, like maybe apart from 1 and 3, which only have 1 step, for all the others, you gotta show me a step. Because if you don't show me a step, I won't know you've understood. Okay? So you're gonna show me a step just like we showed steps here. This sheet is gonna look just like this workings out, okay? I want to see it just like that. Those 10 questions. When you're all done, attach it to show my homework. And that's it, my buddies. That's it from me. Send me a picture when you're all done. And that's it. So, see you next time. Bye, buddies!